Oh, training camp quarterback battles. The time of the year where we read training camp reports about some guy going 9 for 10 on some obscure drill, or get over the top adjectives to describe check down throws. Sometimes they're electrifying, a slugfest between two guys who have real starter potential and who could take their team down different paths depending on who they choose. Other times they're like this year. Mostly all figured out, or if they're not, it's a choice between who can lead the team until the actual starter comes back. Among the battles this year, there are plenty of rookie or second-year quarterbacks who will likely start right away over a veteran backup, but it's not always clear if that's the right choice for all of them. It's competition season, baby! We're gonna find out who's top dog, the leader of the clubhouse, QB1, the big cheese! Let's check out the 2023 quarterback battles coming up this preseason. Baker Mayfield versus Kyle Trask. Tom Brady has officially retired and the Bucs are now on to the next chapter of their franchise. Unfortunately, the main character of their news story will either be Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. And while Trask may be the more natural replacement for Brady as a 6'5" pocket passer with a strong and accurate arm, I think this is Baker's job to lose. And I get the concerns around Baker. He's been an up and down quarterback who has had a few downs in a row and is now on his fourth team in 13 months. He leads the league in interceptions since he entered in 2018, but even so, he's still shown flashes of being a pretty decent quarterback in the past and has experience leading a team. Let's remember where the Bucs are at. They're 2 years removed from a Super Bowl that feels almost impossibly far away in the rear view, and a new offensive coordinator in David Canales and a head coach in Todd Bowles who could be fired if he doesn't have a bounce-back season. To me, that does not sound like an ideal situation for a second-year quarterback who has thrown a total of 9 passes in his career. It'd be different if there were a bunch of reports coming out of camp that Trask was lighting it up and emerging as a natural starter, but there just aren't. In fact, it sounds like neither Trask or Mayfield have been lighting it up in camp so far. Each have thrown untimely picks and have been unable to punch in scores on 2-minute drills. Of course, we can always take these training camp reports with a grain of salt, but it's alarming that there aren't more positive ones to counterbalance the negative. And for what it's worth, Bowles has said that he's going to take into account more than just the stats in practice and has emphasized finding someone who can lead the team going forward. While Baker's leadership style does rub some people the wrong way, he seems to be a player that's taking the aspect of the job more head-on, while reporters have mentioned Trask naturally fitting into a quieter, more backup type of demeanor. And maybe I'm just a goober, but Baker at least gets me fired up. I love it when he runs alongside the rusher with the play. It gets me amped. I think this is Baker's job to lose, with Tampa Bay feeling fine if they do need to pull him mid-season and get a real look at Trask if things go sideways. Colt McCoy versus Jeff Driskel versus David Blough versus Clayton Tune. Because Kyler Murray is recovering from an ACL tear, that's opened up a 4-way competition to start 2023 between Colt McCoy, Jeff Driskel, David Blough, and rookie Clayton Tune. They say if you have 2 quarterbacks, then you don't have 1. Well, what do they say about having 4? Probably that none of them are particularly great. McCoy is the obvious choice here. He's been the incumbent backup over the last 2 seasons, where he's gone 3-3, throwing for 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, on a pretty impressive 71% completion rate, the highest of any quarterback with 200 plus attempts across the last 2 years. But when we look a little deeper at that number, it was likely due to all the short and safe attempts he took throughout his starts. Over that same period, McCoy has the lowest intended air yards per attempt in the league at 5.7. And it became clear throughout McCoy's tenure in Arizona that when teams started keying in on the small game, McCoy became much less effective. So, while McCoy's experience and track record does speak for itself, his limitations do also. Jeff Driskel was signed this past spring to join the backup quarterback mix. He's had an interesting journeyman career so far, with stops in Cincinnati, Detroit, Denver, and most recently, Houston, where he transitioned to tight end for a bit before returning to quarterback. Across 10 starts, he's won 1 game, throwing 14 touchdowns to 8 interceptions with a completion rate of 59%. The Texans had him running a platoon system with Davis Mills, where he was often subbed in closer to and in the red zone, which makes sense considering the threat he poses on the run. At 6'4", 235 pounds with a 4.5 40, Driskel is built bigger than the other guys on this roster at the position. And even though he obviously has a different running style than Kyler Murray does, this aspect of Driskel's game may make him an enticing choice for building an offensive system that will be closer to the one the Cardinals will use when Murray returns. But at that point, I think we're thinking too hard about it. Driskel's passing skills may just be too limited to rely on as a full-time starter, even if it's just for a few games. As for David Blough, this actually isn't the first time he's been behind Driskel on the depth chart. In 2019, Blough made his first start for the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving against the Bears, where both Matthew Stafford and Driskel went down with injuries. Though this ended in a loss, this would be his best game from a quarterback rate standpoint. Blough also made 2 starts for the Cardinals last season in the final weeks of the season and was ultimately unimpressive in both, posting a total of 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 402 yards, and a 65.5% completion rate. Blough has yet to win a game in his career, and unfortunately for him, I don't foresee that changing this year. Rookie Clayton is obviously the most intriguing of all the options, but he's also the biggest mystery. He had a prolific career in college at Houston, where he threw for 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, and came out of the draft believing he was the best quarterback available. Who doesn't love a 5th rounder with that kind of confidence? Still, while the scouting report loves his resilience, it also mentions that he may lack the anticipation to fit his throws into tight areas on time and his inconsistent footwork in the pocket. For a quarterback that was also billed as a snap taker rather than a playmaker, lacking these fundamentals will make it extremely difficult for him to work in the pocket at the NFL level. I think the only way we see Driskel or Blough is if McCoy is exceptionally awful to start the regular season. But for Tune, I don't think it would be crazy if they pulled McCoy early to mid-season if the losses were racking up just to get a look at the kid. But until Murray returns, or everything goes sideways, all signs point to this being Colt's team. Anthony Richardson versus Gardner Minshew. The chances of getting an encore of Minshew Mania are slim, but hey, a guy can dream, can't he? Indianapolis is coming off a disaster of a season. They thought Matt Ryan might finally be a stabilizing veteran force with a decent offense and a good line. They were projected to be leaders in the AFC South with 9 to 10 wins. Instead, the Colts ended 4-12-1 as they let Matty Ice melt under pressure again and again to the point he changed professions. Oh, plus, they gave up the biggest comeback in NFL history. The good news! All that heartbreak led to drafting Florida's Anthony Richardson. You already know the talking points about him, but let's do them again! Crazy athletic, biggest project but highest potential, his legs will give him a solid floor, but his arm is inaccurate, as he completed only 53% of his passes last year. Benjamin Solik of The Ringer is obsessed with him. And most importantly, the Colts believe that he is the future of their franchise. So, what does that mean for the quarterback battle this season? In a lot of ways, I think this one is a more pure competition out there, even if owner Jim Irsay has essentially demanded that he play this season. The basis of this battle between Richardson and Minshew, I think, is really to push Richardson to progress faster alongside Minshew, who, by many accounts, is approaching the quarterback competition from the perspective of it being an opportunity for both of them to grow. I'm completely drinking the Kool-Aid, but I just love Gardner. There are a few things working in Minshew's favor to win this competition, too. He's started 24 games, Richardson has famously started 0, he went 6-6 in his rookie year with the Jaguars, and while he couldn't follow it up in his sophomore season, this is great experience at being a leader through an offseason. And finally, Indianapolis' new offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen, is coming over from Philadelphia, where Minshew spent the last 2 seasons. GM Chris Ballard has also spoken highly of Minshew's fearless play, competitiveness, and team-first mentality. But that team-first mentality will probably, in the best-case scenario, set him up to be a sitting duck starter. The Colts will talk highly of him as a veteran, a leader with real talent, someone who could push Richardson in camp, and who they feel has earned a chance to start this season. Then they'll leave him out to dry in some early to mid-season game, put Richardson in, and never look back. And listen, I think there's some sense to this strategy. I do think, without being at camp and going off experience and stats alone, Gardner is probably the more accurate and better quarterback right now. Plus, I just like the guy. But I still think the Colts should just rip the band-aid off and get Richardson in there to start week 1. After all, do we expect the Colts to make the playoffs this year? How much does their chance change if they start Gardner or Minshew? Probably not that much. I say just get your franchise quarterback some reps. As for Minshew, it'll be another year of playing bridesmaid. First to Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, and now to Richardson in Indy. Sam Howell versus Jacoby Brissett. Since his debut in Washington's finale against the Dallas Cowboys, Sam Howell has pretty much been the presumptive starter heading into the Commanders' 2023 season. He wasn't incredible, but was completely competent for his first-time start, throwing for 169 yards on 11 for 19 passing, including a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and 1 interception. And that seemed to be enough for head coach Ron Rivera. In February, he said Howell would be the QB1 heading into training camp. But since then, Jacoby Brissett was signed to one of the more expensive backup quarterback contracts. Brissett should get credit for how well he played as a starter in Cleveland last year. While a wild Jets game and some inopportune interceptions sunk the Browns' record, Brissett did post the 6th best offensive grade among quarterbacks in 2022, according to PFF. The 5 guys above him? Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, and Jackson. From many accounts, the job is more Howell's to lose once the year starts than it is an open position that Brissett has the chance to win in the preseason. That makes sense from the long view. Howell is on a rookie deal through 2025, while Brissett is only signed to 1 year. If Howell is the guy for the next few years, you'd like to know that as soon as possible. Howell has reportedly shown improvement in camp and practice while already having a good touch on deeper go balls, an ability to stay up in the pocket, and some scrambling ability that will give him a decent floor in the worst case. Plus, having new OC Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City in his ear won't hurt either. Even so, Brissett should prove to be a deceptively difficult boss stage for Howell to overcome. After all, the Commanders might be thinking if they had just started Brissett all season long, instead of this weird cocktail of Carson Wentz and Heinicke they were forced to stomach, they might have gotten into the playoffs. I've got to commend Rivera for seemingly doing what's in the franchise's best interest by propping up Howell. After all, Rivera is likely on the hot seat after several middling seasons and missing the playoffs. It would be easy to go with the more known commodity in Brissett and make a wild card game. Instead, they're riding with Howell, and although I do think Brissett deserves a chance as a starter in the league after last season, I'll be rooting for Howell to make good on all the flashes that have gotten people excited about him. Brock Purdy versus Trey Lance versus Sam Darnold. There are so many ways to say someone's the quarterback. Signal caller, guy behind center, at the helm. But the 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan gave one for Brock Purdy that I want to use more often, and that's the leader of the clubhouse. Since Purdy's elbow injury following the NFC Championship game, he's essentially remained San Francisco's QB1. And why not? In 5 regular season games, Purdy posted the best quarterback rating in the league, doing so with poise in the pocket, smart and quick decisions, and accuracy. He spread the ball out to the stars around him efficiently. And if Shanahan gets to do a spin on signal caller, then I get to do one on game manager, and that's stabilizing presence. The other side is that he was a 7th round pick for a reason, and now that he's coming off surgery and defenses will know how San Francisco wants to play with him, he'll have a tougher time succeeding. So, the 49ers don't want to put the starting quarterback label on things. Not officially at least, they're just having fun, especially when they've got options like Trey Lance and Sam Darnold hanging around the clubhouse. Lance is the relationship with more history, more baggage. The 49ers traded a ransom up to go get him, thinking he would usurp former quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo and provide a higher ceiling to an already potent offense. Unfortunately, it's been all stops and starts for Lance. First, it was a finger injury that derailed the start of his rookie year. Then, it was an ankle injury that ended his second year only 2 weeks in. Both of these injuries have compounded and forced him to reconfigure his throwing mechanics, which is worrisome for a guy that has so little in-game experience as he does. He's made only 4 starts over 2 years and has thrown 56 completions against 102 attempts for 5 touchdowns and 3 picks. In college, while he put together an impressive year at North Dakota State in 2021, he only appeared in a total of 17 games for 318 pass attempts. Maybe the silver lining here is that, hey, maybe he wasn't all that locked into his previous mechanics. But the negative version is that he's going to be made less comfortable doing something new at a higher level. With such a blurry picture of what Lance actually is, I'd prefer going with the young guy who's already proven something in Purdy. As for any Darnold buzz, that's coming from the fact he looked decent at the tail end of his time in Carolina last season, and that the 49ers is head and shoulders the best situation he's ever been in. On the Pardon My Take podcast, Darnold spoke highly of how San Francisco's offense provided tons of answers to any questions the defense threw at him. A complement of Shanahan's system, yes, but it also makes you wonder how many answers he had previously with Adam Gase and Matt Rule. Voices around the NFL and the voices in my head have pitched that Darnold has a real shot at playing meaningful snaps this season and could succeed. I don't doubt that Darnold could do well. He's got a good arm and sneaky mobility. His Achilles heel has always been decision making. Since entering the league in 2018, he ranks 11th in interception rate. Having a stronger system with better skill players could certainly help bring that percentage down. While I think the idea of Darnold behind center makes me feel more secure than Lance, it would be extremely bold of SF to move Purdy down the depth chart, assuming the injury isn't still affecting him. To me, Lance and Darnold should only be fighting for the opportunity to back him up and play savior if a similar late season catastrophe hits this campaign. The 49ers are in win now mode. They've got the pieces to do it. Purdy nearly got them there before, and now he should have the chance to finish the job. Desmond Ridder versus Taylor Heinicke. Even Heinicke himself has said that he was signed to back up Desmond Ridder in Atlanta, so there isn't really an actual competition going on here. Of course, that could all change if Ridder looks truly awful in camp or the preseason, but the chances of that seem pretty slim. For how the Falcons have built themselves, it makes tons of sense to want to commit to Ridder for this year. He showed steady improvement to finish out the final 4 games of this year, where he went 2-2, throwing 2 touchdowns and no interceptions, while notching a 63.5 completion percentage. And now that the team has just drafted another talented skill player in Bijan Robinson to go along with Cordell Patterson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Tyler Algier, all Ridder needs to do is drive the bus and spread the ball around. And his playstyle and strength should lend itself to doing exactly that. He's got good footwork, wants to win from the pocket, but still possesses mobility, and has a good sense of the game to read defenses and know where to go with the ball. Despite so-so arm strength and athleticism, his IQ and the team around him should give us some chances to succeed. After all, the team was 31st in pass attempts, but first in rush attempts last year. This isn't an offense that's asking the quarterback to carry them. As for Heinicke, he's gotta look interesting just sitting there on the bench, since I think you're always expecting him to just figure out some sort of batshit way to win. And while I think he's a great game manager and puts himself in positions to make wild things happen as much as they just happen on their own, he doesn't have the ceiling at the quarterback position that an emerging team should want. To be clear, I think Heinicke would do a great job with this collection of players, the same way he took advantage of having Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and Brian Robinson last year for a 5-3-1 record. But he definitely isn't the future like Ridder could be. Still, don't be surprised if Ridder has a short leash. Arthur Smith has installed a versatile, smash-mouth offense that I've really enjoyed watching, but it hasn't translated to any real success yet. Over the first 2 seasons, Smith has gone 14-20 and failed to make the playoffs. If the Falcons start slow, Smith may look to activate some of that Heinicke magic that injected some hope into a floundering Commanders season last year. Mac Jones versus Bailey Zappe. By many accounts, Bailey Zappe's 15 minutes of fame as the New England Patriots' next starting quarterback has ended. For now at least. While the 4th rounder out of Western Kentucky has turned some heads with wins in both of his starts and a 100.9 quarterback rating this past season, incumbent starter Mac Jones has been taking first team reps since the spring. Although Jones regressed in just about every metric in his sophomore year, there's a pretty compelling case that he was set up to fail from the beginning when the Patriots named defensive-minded coach Matt Patricia as their play caller. The offense looked stuck in mud all season with predictable concepts that weren't moving the needle. Jones, meanwhile, got the sense that New England wasn't putting him in positions to progress. It got so bad that he ended up seeking outside help. The whole thing apparently pissed off head coach Bill Belichick, but can you really blame Jones? Heading into the season, the Patriots replaced Patricia with Bill O'Brien, who has much more experience on the offensive side of the ball and should help Jones return to and surpass where he was as a rookie. I think it's safe to say that any news about a quarterback competition this summer is overblown. This is Mac Jones' job. Bryce Young versus Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton was first on the depth chart when he first signed with the Panthers this offseason, but it only took one training camp for Carolina to officially put their number 1 pick in Bryce Young above him. The story around Young is that everything about him screams high potential quarterback who's coming into the league NFL ready. Only, at 5'10 and 204 pounds sopping wet and after several huge meals, he's a lot smaller than the other guys who have done it. Since 2003, no quarterback drafted in the first round has weighed less than 207 pounds. Smaller quarterbacks have succeeded before, and the Panthers are hoping his frame doesn't stand in the way of his ability. For Andy Dalton, there's been plenty of reporting out of camp about how great of a mentor he's been, but not without mentions around how he can still sling the football. There's been some having it both ways for the Red Rocket. Dalton is 35 years old now, he's been a fixture in the league since 2011, and ranks 4th in wins among active quarterbacks with 83. At the same time, he's been okay throughout these last few stops in Dallas, Chicago, and most recently New Orleans. There, he replaced opening day starter Jameis Winston after a week 2 injury, and then supplanted him altogether for the remainder of the season. He went 6-8 in 14 games, and the Saints ultimately missed the playoffs, but Dalton did look decent throughout it, grading as the 7th best quarterback according to PFF, along with posting the 8th best quarterback rating and 10th best completion percentage. Still, it would seem barring a preseason trade to a newly quarterback-needy team, we probably won't see a ton of Dalton this year. CJ Stroud versus Davis Mills. Apparently, new Houston head coach DeMeco Ryans is saying CJ Stroud versus Davis Mills is an actual competition. Could you imagine if the Texans actually started Mills over Stroud this year? Would this decision give me incredible joy? Yes. Would it be bananas crazy insane? Also, yes. I can't imagine there's a real battle going on between these guys, so rather than actually talk about them in earnest, let's just take a minute to reminisce about Mills and get excited about his new career as an NFL backup quarterback. So, let me get this out of the way. I have a soft spot for Mills, but it isn't based on nothing. I was actually at the Week 2 Texans game in 2021 in Cleveland when a wild Davis Mills first appeared. I remember Tyrod Taylor had just run a touchdown in late in the second and got hurt. He played through the rest of the half, but when the third quarter started, he had become white and the length of his neck tripled. And that's when I realized, hey, that's not Tyrod Taylor at all. Mills wasn't very good in this game. He looked scared and overmatched. This didn't really change throughout the rest of his stint as a starter, losing all 6 of them before Taylor made his return, throwing 6 touchdowns to 7 interceptions and ranked 28th in passer rating. But when Taylor went out with injury again, Mills got another chance and made the most of it between weeks 14 and 18. During this span, he went 2-3, throwing 9 touchdowns and 2 picks en route to the 8th best passer rating. He came into this next year with a little bit of hype for the people who were watching him, like me. Even the Around the NFL podcast guys thought he'd help the Texans hit the over. Things obviously didn't go that way. He completely flamed out, ending the year with 17 touchdowns, 15 picks, and the 36th best passer rating out of 41 qualifying players as the Houston Texans went 3-13-1. Still, everything about Mills' year had to happen for the CJ Stroud era to begin, even down to his very last pass, which secured the Texans the 2nd pick in this year's draft. Now, we hope Stroud does extremely well this year, but has maybe, an innocuous reason to sit for a game, and then Mills starts down his path of becoming the moxiest backup in the league. That's my ideal situation, at least. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Please feel free to leave comments if you agree with me, disagree with me on anything. I always try to reply to as many as I can. Also consider giving this video a like if you did enjoy it, and consider subscribing to the channel so you can catch the next one. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.